Today, we are diving deep into a really fascinating book from 1979 called Frederik. Now, the author, Ebbe Kløvedal Reich, isn't just writing a simple biography here. No, he's giving us this powerful, almost radical new way to look at one of Denmark's biggest historical figures, N.F.S. Grundtvig. We're going to jump into Reich's vision and see how he brings this icon back to life, not as a relic, but as a living, breathing battleground for ideas that still matter today. And right away, the book just throws us in with a quote from the man himself. It really sets the tone, you know? He's questioning this whole idea of forcing someone to believe something. This tells you right off the bat, this isn't a guy with easy answers. He starts by challenging authority itself.
And that's really the key here, that challenging spirit. See, Grundtvig wasn't just some dusty figure you read about in a history book. He was like a lightning rod. His ideas were so intense, they forced you to pick a side. To the establishment, he was a huge problem. But to the people, well, he was something else entirely.
So to really get what Reich is doing, you have to see how he sets up the whole story. He doesn't just start at the beginning of Grundtvig's life and go from there. Nope. Instead, he gives us these 4 core ideas, these 4 pillars that he calls the 4 forwards. And everything we learn about Grundtvig is meant to be seen through this lens. So here they are, the spirit, the song, the land, and the faith. And for Reich, believe me, these are way more than just chapter titles. He sees them as the fundamental forces that drove everything Grundtvig did. We're going to focus on 3 of them, the spirit, the song, and the faith, to really get to the heart of what the author is trying to tell us. Okay, let's dive into the first one, this battle for the owned, or the spirit. And just to be clear, we're not talking about ghosts here, or even just religion in a simple sense. This is about the very soul, the character of a nation. The so-called intellectuals of his day, they completely missed the point. You know, they looked at Grundtvig's passion, his deep connection to old myths and history, and they just saw madness. They thought he was backwards. But they were so wrong. What they couldn't see was that he was fighting for something you can't measure or count, the revolutionary heart of the people. And this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you have the official story from the intellectual upper class, who slapped him with labels like false prophet, grotesque, and, yeah, even mad. But then you have Reich's view, which completely flips the script. He's not mad, he's a misunderstood visionary. He's a threat to the comfortable and the privileged because his ideas were just way ahead of their time. Okay, let's move on to the second pillar in Reich's argument, and you'll see how this all starts to connect. It's song, or the song. Now, that might sound kind of simple, but for Grundtvig, and the way Reich explains it, this idea had absolutely explosive power. And get this, even the famous philosopher Soren Kierkegaard, one of his contemporaries, seemed totally baffled. He kind of mockingly called Grundtvig's big idea the living words abracadabra, like it was some kind of silly magic trick. So what on earth was he talking about? It's this pretty radical idea that real knowledge, real spirit, isn't something you find locked away in a dusty old book. No, it only comes alive when it's spoken, when it's sung, when it's shared between actual people in a community. I mean, think about that. That idea totally challenges the authority of the academics and the priests whose power was built on the silent written word. And this isn't just some abstract philosophical thing. Reich brings it right into the present day. He points out that even now, every New Year in Denmark is literally sung in by the national radio choir. So Grundtvig's idea isn't dead history. It's a living tradition that's still woven into the very fabric of the country. And that brings us to our third theme, troen, or the faith. This is where it all really comes together. But again, this is probably not faith in the way you're used to thinking about it. The way Reich describes it, Grundtvig's faith wasn't a list of rules you had to follow or a doctrine you had to memorize. It wasn't about claiming you knew all the answers about God. It was more like hearing a voice in the wilderness, in all the chaos of life, a voice that makes you stop and listen and wonder and doubt and believe all at the same time. It's an active, searching thing. So here's the crucial part. This was a faith for the people, not one handed down from the elites. It was democratic. It lived in the real world, in questions and doubts, in the messy reality of everyday experience, not in some sterile sermon from a pulpit or a lecture from a professor. Which all brings us to the big takeaway. Why was this story so important for Reich to tell back in 1979? And more importantly, why should we care about it now?
You see, for Reich, this was never about just writing a history lesson, trying to capture a man frozen in the past. He isn't some settled issue, not a bronze statue in a park that we can just walk by and ignore.
No. For Reich, Grundtvig is a battlefield. The fight over the spirit is still happening in debates about education and who we are as a nation. The power of the song is still alive in the tension between community and just being out for yourself. His ideas are the ground we are still fighting on. So in the end, what Reich is telling us is that the huge questions Grundtvig was wrestling with more than 150 years ago about our national spirit, about community, about what it means to believe, they're not solved. They're the exact same questions we are still trying to answer today. Which kind of leaves you wondering, doesn't it? In this timeless battle for who we are, which side are we on?